To invite Mr. Anil Nair for his address and presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly put your hands together for Mr. Anil Nair.
Okay, so very good afternoon to you, and what I'm going to tell you about is what Cisco does. But let me start before that by telling you about smart cities. Much is what you know about, but our take as Cisco on smart cities. So first, I think it's important to understand what is a smart city and what's happening there. Now, as we see it, it is a global transition. It's a global transition to a digital economy. So now if you look at internet traffic, you're going to see 50x in the next 10 years. That's the volume of change that's going to happen. Look at processor speeds, 70x in the next 7 years. Now for all that traffic and all that consumption of information, you need intelligent devices, and we're saying that by 2020, you're going to see 1.8 billion smart devices. And the digital economy, of course in India it will be faster than in other countries because of what's happening now, but it will be at least 20 to 25% conservative estimate of the global GDP. So as part of this global change to digitization, we're also seeing products change. For instance, once upon a time, we talked about long-distance telephony. It just disappeared. You call on WhatsApp, you don't get charged. It's demonetized totally. Look at video, music, maps, all digitized. If you look at the Tesla car, the software can change the features of the car. So you have a hybrid situation there. And now you have the augmented part. So you wear this wristband and it looks at your health parameters, and it will connect you to a site which can also give you advice about what exactly you ought to do to fix your health. So that's the augmented part. You'll see the value propositions have changed substantially. So now people are saying, you know, the life cycles of products are much shorter. People are saying we don't want to own, we want to rent, or we want to use. We want to increase or decrease our consumption based on demand. You're talking about ultra-personalization and all of that. So the very business models that we're talking about, disintermediation is happening. You don't need a middleman. You can go directly. Death of distance, where you can deal with clients in any part of the world. So the whole business model, the value proposition, all of that is changing too. And so now let's come to a smart city. So what is a smart city? A smart city, and more so in India than any other part of the world, is a response to rapid urbanization, extreme urbanization. With the size of our population, it's far more compounded here than in any part of the world. And recently, we had Mr. Amitabh Kant from the Niti Aayog, and that's exactly what he resonated, saying that India is compounded many times over when you compare it with any other part of the world. So when you have unprecedented urbanization, obviously the challenges that come with it, you're going to have twice the population of the United States in the urban centers. Now if you look at it, we have about 33 cities with greater than 1 million population. The figures might vary depending on which publication you read, but essentially the messages are clear. From 33, you're going to have 69 cities in 2030 with over 1 million population. If you look at urban population, 32% going up to 40%, a very conservative estimate. If you look at the GDP, 63% already emanates from the urban centers, going up to 75%. And if you look at traffic, it's going to be 5x. by 2030, if you think you have a traffic problem, once upon a time Bangalore was known as the IT city. Today I think the T of IT stands for traffic. And then when you look at 2030, it's going to be 5x. So now if you look at the economic scenario, you will see, if you look at the environmental indices, we are 155 out of 178 countries, and that's not where we ought to be. And I think all the change that we do, and if we don't do it fast enough, we're going to remain there. And if we don't, you will see what's happening already in Delhi, and when it gets cold in Mumbai, you have all the indices, the environment indices declining. So you have traffic delays, and you will, with that, you're going to have a lot of fuel losses, and you have energy just being dissipated, a lot of it in the buildings. At least 50% of what is used in the buildings goes waste. So we have all these challenges to deal with. Water, everybody's talked about it. I think it needs reiteration. Otherwise, the wars are going to be about water, and you can already see some glimpses of it in the various cities that we reside in. So what are the challenges? Now, essentially, everybody's talked about it: overcrowding, housing, cities, unemployment, transport, etc. But you can categorize them into three aspects. There is the social indices, the economic aspects, and the environmental aspects. So what is the government of India doing? We've all talked about it. Everybody knows the government announced a retrofit program for our cities, and they said that they would put in 100 crores per year for 5 years, which would be matched by the state governments. It's not a lot of money, but the one thing it has done is it's created a spirit of competition between the cities. We see it because we're very close to it and work with many of them. The amounts are certainly not much, but I think it's in the right direction. People are now trying to figure out what exactly needs to be done to get there. Some are ahead, some are slower, but it's certainly an interesting journey. So what are the benefits of digital empowerment? Everybody knows about it, but let me reiterate it. So first of all, there's a great deal of transparency. When there's transparency, things move faster. There is less bureaucracy, hopefully less corruption, and things move faster. There are new avenues in terms of revenues coming in. There are reduced costs, and so the whole cycle works better. Now when you look at reduced costs, we all talked about energy costs. With IoT, it's very easy to make the equations change and reduce the energy consumption. If you look at smart parking or property taxes and you digitize it, you will easily see a great improvement there. So when we talk to the various governments, we talk about the benefits of digitization being, the large ones being, first of all, increase in GDP and growth. Second being that there will be job creation. Of course, some of it is getting defied because automation seems to be moving on a faster track and consuming jobs rather than creating jobs. But in India, we need to worry about it a lot more than other countries because we have to produce 1 million jobs a month. And then, of course, you have sustainability in terms of the revenues going up and the costs going down, financial stability of the state, financial sustainability of the state. So essentially, those are the benefits, and we reiterate that to the various governments that we deal with. So what are the environment solutions? I think a lot of people have spoken about it, but let me take a few. Let's talk about smart mobility. And there I'm talking about traffic, and then I'm talking about the transport fleets that the various governments have. Now in the city of Vijayawada, for instance, they have a control center where they can see where the traffic is going. And they can see exactly where it's getting stuck and where it's moving fast or where any activity is happening. Now the next stage will be where you have artificial intelligence and the traffic lights will be able to direct the traffic in the appropriate way so that there is decongestion. Now if you look at the transport system that they have, the government network, the bus network and so on and so forth, you will find that with IoT, they can actually go to places where there are people, They don't have to do a run where there are no people getting on board the bus. Of course, they have to serve the social benefits that they have to render to the citizens. But they can also make sure that the maintenance is done better, the buses run better, and the transport corporations are more profitable. Now, if you look at smart parking, the first thing that happens is when you go to a place and you introduce smart parking, you will find that the revenues from there magically go up by 30 to 40% at the least. So digitizing, transparency, and the benefits that go with it. But most important, I think we must all be smart citizens, and in whatever we use and consume, it needs to be at the top of our minds so that we don't run short of the resources that we so badly need. Now, when we look at infrastructure, I think Ajay put it very succinctly and very clearly. This is what happens in a city. I don't want to go over it again, but essentially you have a smart network. And the most important part is the integrated operations center. Now, very often we see in states that one road is being done and then they seal it, and the next thing you know, the next department is there cutting it and cutting in exactly the same place. So when you talk about an integrated operations center for a state, it also means transparency between the various state departments. And when that happens, and they can see what the others are doing, there is less waste. Now, when you have an integrated operations center, the other thing that you have to worry about is cyber attacks. Because a cyber attack can bring down the whole city. And therefore, one needs to be conscious that with digitization, there are lots of other things that you have to worry about as well. Because now you don't have to attack the whole city. You just have to attack the command center. So what are the contentious issues? One, if you look at smart cities, environment is certainly not on the top of the agenda, and it's not monetizable either, or at least the models are not durable. Second, you can have, waste bins, and you can tell people that they've got to do this. What happens if they take the waste and put it outside the bin? Any amount of digitization is not going to change that. So I think it needs a lot of character, a lot of discipline, and therefore citizen discipline is as important as IoT. And I think that's what we've got to cultivate. If you look at the city governance structures, try to get anything done, there are so many people involved. I think with the Smart City project, you have an SPV. If you look at the gift city, it's really remarkable. We signed an MOU with them just yesterday. And those are some of the inhibiting factors when a big bureaucracy comes in the way of getting things done, when you have incumbents who come in the way of progress. And you understand what I mean when I say incumbents. And then if you need funding, the funders will say, we need to see the proof, we need to see the evidence, and to create that evidence, you need funding. So there is this paradox which we have to resolve. And of course there are no incentives for improvement of the environmental factors. So now let me tell you about what Cisco is doing. Now Cisco, apart from all the activity that we do on the business side of it, we have this initiative, and CDA stands for Country Digitization Acceleration. So the belief is that for a country to transform, country transformation is going to be contingent on your digitization. So that's a strong belief that pervades our thinking. And we don't look only at the environmental factors, we look at the whole ecosystem. So the investments that we have made include national broadband, so that there is connectivity, skilling, because you need capacity building. Otherwise, all these technologies and you don't have people to operate it, you have a void there. So in skilling, and recently I was reading an article where one of the chief ministers said, the question was, when you look at the prisons, what size of prisons do you have to build? And then she drew a correlation, said, look at the number of 11-year-olds who are uneducated, and you will get a correlation with the size of the prisons that you have to build. So there are unrelated things which are related. Or for instance, if you look at lighting and you look at the crime charts, and you will see that lighting has also a correlation with crime. So we invest in all these things. Cybersecurity is very, very important, and there is a simulation center that we're putting up in Gurgaon, where people can be trained on cyber attacks and how to deal with them in real time. Now, some of the environmental investments, impacting investments that we have made, the Golden Mile. The Golden Mile is a miniature smart city. We're doing it in Andhra Pradesh, we're doing it in Telangana, and in Gujarat, we're doing it, we're supporting the initiatives of GIFT, and it's truly a remarkable place. For instance, when, the first thing that you notice is these cities get cut up because one guy is putting the wire and somebody else is doing something else. They have like a channel or a tunnel that runs below GIFT City, and you can put any number of cables there. It's like an underground train station. It looks similar to that, and it's amazing. So we create these miniature smart cities more to showcase the benefits of getting smart. And we have IDC who supports us in creating the impact analysis, which is before and after. So we monitor the three indices which I told you about, the social, economic and environmental, and we actually can showcase the difference before and after. And then we have solution development. I think Gautam talked about the smart street light, so we're doing work on that and developing it here in India. We've also got solutions for parking and waste, and what we're doing is a lot of the solutions we don't develop only ourselves, we develop the whole ecosystem. We have innovation centers that we fund, like for instance in Telangana there is the Tea Hub, and where various entrepreneurs come and they can be there for a year. We're doing that in iCreate in Gujarat as well. So the whole idea is, let's get people to come in there with the solutions that can work for the city, and then when we sell our solutions to the larger communities, to the governments, we integrate their solutions not just here but worldwide. And of course we create city command centers. Well, like we're participating in GIFT, and we're doing it at many other places as well, because you have to integrate the feed from various applications that are running to make sure that it's all integrated and works well. So in closing, Cisco believes in country transformation happening through digitization. All our investments through the CDA program, the Country Digitization Acceleration Program, are targeted and aligned with the national objectives. So you talk about, Digital India, you talk about Startup India, you talk about Skill India, you talk about cyber security, you talk about defense. Those are the places where we're making investments. And when I say investments, we go in there and put all of the technology for free. And we get it to work. And we look at the sustainability of it. So we create these proofs of concept, and it's not just a showcase. We can actually show the proof of what's happening. And the whole idea is to create a whole new digital ecosystem, because India is the place to be. India is going to be where the scale is unprecedented, and Cisco wants to be there as this transition is happening. We've played a part in the past, and we certainly want to play a very significant part going forward. Thank you very much.